Part of the new energy laws that Jason Hayes was just talking about, and as he mentioned, take away local control of your land. Basically, if you've got zoned land for farm and nothing else, the state, under these new laws, have the right to come and take it over and put in your solar panels and your wind farms. So I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Kevon Martis. Kevon, come on up. So Kevon is actually a county commissioner for Lenawee County, right? He's presently a county commissioner. He's a Deerfield Township zoning administrator. And you work with MSU Extension Certified Zoning Administrator and all that. So Kevon Martis, with all that, this guy is a hardworking public servant, and he has put together, or is one of the founding members, I should say, of Citizens for Local Choice Ballot Committee. So basically, he has put together, this is going to be a petition drive to get on the ballot. And you've got that approved already, and you've got the petitions with you. And that would, if this goes through, would bring back local control. Let me see if I can find your presentation. All right, we got it.
All right.
And it's working, so. Very good. Kevon Martis, and here, these arrows right here will bring you up and down.
Super.
Thank you so much, sir. And we'll have questions afterwards with all three of our presenters. And if you stay here, the cameraman will be easier to get you.
For sure. Well, thanks, folks. It's a blessing to be with you here tonight. It's always great to hear my friend Jason Hayes. It's very hard for me not to talk about the energy policy side of things because that's what I've been doing since about 2009. And so, but I'm involved in a different effort now, and because of some of our stakeholders who are helping us, I have to stay out of the energy discussion, but it does not come naturally for me. See. And so, yes, as already been mentioned, I currently serve as county commissioner and a zoning administrator. I've been involved in the wind energy and now the solar zoning dispute since 2009, and my travels have taken me across 10 states, so I've got to see how many different places deal with this. And like Republicans typically have to say, you can find all kinds of articles about how I'm funded by the Koch brothers and the fossil fuel industry, nuclear, one time big tobacco, which is odd because I've never smoked in my life. And all I can say, if those folks actually write checks for the kind of work I do personally, my first name is spelled Kevon, and I would like the check to clear. So who are we? And this is a little different because I know we're a Republican bunch here, but this is a unique issue. And our group is a true grassroots coalition that includes Democrats and Republicans, independents, libertarians, environmentalists, renewable energy proponents, renewable energy critics, ratepayers, energy users, and local and state officials from both parties. That's important. We're deliberately, we've seen the polling on this, it'll come up in a minute, but the polling is strongly bipartisan. There's almost universal objection to this state preemption of local control of land use. So as a result, we're really trying to target our message in the middle. If you've been in rural communities, you realize Democrats are just as offended by some of these poor land use decisions as Republicans. And I will say right up front, as divisive as our political climate is in the state and nationally, I think this is a healing exercise where we can actually reach across the aisle and work with some folks who typically we disagree with on so many other issues and unite around this one issue. I think that's something all of us would really like to be a part of. Yay. Thanks. And with that, I announce my bid for the governor of the fine state of Michigan. Never. I also want to be clear that we are committed to only one cause, and that's the restoration of local regulation of wind, solar, and battery electricity storage projects. We as a group are not opposed to renewable energy development. We simply believe it is best regulated by the people that live in the communities hosting the projects, even though a number of us have criticisms of renewable energy. One of the reasons we're sticking to that position is it brings in the strongest and widest swath of people to support our efforts, but it's also important to understand, and this is a significant announcement that we just were able to release last week, Michigan Farm Bureau and the Michigan Township Association are both now backing our efforts and are actively involved. And of course, their constituencies are broad as well. So of course, we want to be respectful of the people that are involved with their groups, but they are working well with us and working to help make sure we get this thing on the ballot. So the problem with Public Act 233, this law is really, and this is a new phrase I'm going to use tonight, and we'll see how it registers. The truth is, this is a forced industrialization law. That the developers now have a fast track to convert farm ground and forest ground in the Upper Peninsula to primarily solar development. I was in the Upper Peninsula with Senator McBroom a few weeks ago. The timber and paper industry are very upset. Even as we see high value crop ground here being converted to solar, forest ground is far cheaper. And you can buy a lot of forest ground in the Upper Peninsula, log it off, and turn it into solar. And since so much of it is no longer owned by the timber industry, but by hedge funds, they're motivated simply by maximizing their return. So they don't see a big harm in logging that off. And it's beginning to take place already. Local regulations no longer have any meaningful impact. Now, the proponents will say that we made sure the locals have a voice. It's true. You do have a voice as long as that voice is yes, and as long as your ordinance matches the state regulations. So you have only the right to say yes. If you say no, the state will supersede. So this is the Assembly Solar Farm in Shiawassee County. The typical solar farm now is 1,500 to 2,000 acres. The project that Jason referenced is in my community. In fact, I became a zoning administrator in Deerfield Township because they adopted zoning to protect their farm ground. And it's unique farm ground. They grow peppers, they grow cabbage, they grow vegetables, they have orchards. I mean, it's incredibly diverse ground. It's the last place you would ever take out of production. But yet that's exactly what this law will now allow to do. Likewise, my community had wind projects proposed a decade ago. We resolved that through our zoning. People were finally healing the relationships, things were getting back to normal, and now the developers there is pushing the phase one of a wind project that will ultimately bring 300 wind turbines back into my county, and 15,000 acres of solar right now are being proposed. That's 2/3 of a township, 15,000 acres. Interesting thing, another failure, an internal failure of this law is the noise limits and the setback distances and so forth for wind energy have no basis in science. The standard now has a 55 decibel noise limit, and I won't stay in the weeds. This presentation is not terribly long, but the World Health Organization, which by all accounts is left-leaning and very much pro-environment and pro-renewable, says the right noise limit for wind turbines at night is 35 decibels, 40 in the evening and 45 day. We have a standard that's 55 decibels, 25 hours a day. Chairman Scripps from the Public Service Commission was asked in testimony, and by all accounts he's a nice man, but he was asked, where did you get these setback distances from? Where did you get these noise limits from? And his answer to the legislators is, I'll have to get back with you. But he now serves as the de facto statewide planning commission chairman for wind, solar, and battery storage projects. And battery storage. Urban areas, maybe more like Oakland County, think they're largely immune from this law, but it turns out electricity storage and batteries, which are large shipping containers like you see here, only take somewhere between 8 and 20 acres of ground to host 50 megawatts, which would get you into the state regulation, which means if Detroit or Hamtramck or Saginaw or Bay City has a 20-acre parcel, and there's a power grid connection there, a developer can acquire the rights to that property and put this battery storage in there, and the local unit of government cannot require screening, has no say on which district it goes in, can't require fire suppression, anything. It's totally out of your hands. So urban areas are not immune. Imagine Saginaw with or Flint with the Buick City property, right? I mean, I presume there's other developers looking at it, but if that were acquired by a battery storage guy, they could put thousands of megawatts of batteries in the city of Flint with no input from the local unit of government. Maybe they want it, maybe they don't, but it's not their decision anymore. So urban areas are not exempt.
What's the fire risk of that?
Well, there is a non-trivial risk of fire, and all you have to do is Google this and you'll see. One last example, this house is actually one of my friend's homes in Mason County over by Ludington. When this turbine went into operation, they moved into the basement from the noise. There was extensive litigation by the neighbors and by Mason County against Consumers Energy because they were violating the noise limits in their ordinance. It took a long time and a lot of expense to resolve, and of course there was a settlement. Because of that experience, Mason County updated their wind zoning regulations to something to make sure this wouldn't happen to their people again, because they had a bad experience and it was shown in a court of law to have been a failure. All that's now off the books, and consumers or anybody else is now free to come back, secure the leases to move forward. Interestingly, though, counties like Tuscola, Isabella, Huron, Sanilac, who have approved wind projects in their jurisdictions, still send in resolutions opposing the state takeover. Even the places like Gratiot that want wind energy don't want it on the state's terms. They want it on their own terms. So we looked at all kinds of solutions to try and correct this. We worked hard for a year to try and prevent the law from going into effect. It was a strictly partisan vote, one vote majority in essence, and each house was enough to get it done, and it was absolutely partisan. So we looked at all our options and realized the only option available to us would be an initiative to introduce legislation that would have one narrow effect, which is to repeal the local preemption of zoning. And that's what we've done. We looked at a lot of other options, litigation and so forth. We just didn't see any other way to challenge this. The last thing anybody wants to do is commit themselves to 550,000 petition signatures. If there was another option forward, we would take it. There is not. So we're focused only on that one part, not any other part of the energy policy. If our effort is successful, then we will go back to the status quo like it has been since time immemorial. Here's one of the reasons we're very optimistic. Even though the forces against us, the renewable companies and the environmental companies have tremendous financial resources, the polling on this issue is stark. Anywhere in the state you go, you have 70 to 92% opposition to this law. And MTA's polling also shows that 85% of Democrats oppose this law and 91 or 92% of Republicans oppose this law. I don't know of another issue that has this broad of a base of support. If we can get the petition signatures and get it in front of the people, I don't know how much money you would have to spend on deception to move the polls 40 points, but it's a tremendous amount. And this is such a self-evident thing to decide when you go into the ballot box. Should it be you or the Public Service Commission? Most people are going to say me. Well, in fact, I think 9 out of 10 will. We have a couple other thoughts I want to share with you as I wrap up. This comes up a lot. Well, where should solar go? Well, we have 43,000 brownfield sites in the state of Michigan. Those should be converted to solar if we're going to convert anything to solar. We have 2 million roofs, and 77% of them can host solar with a potential of 42.3 million megawatt hours per year with no farm or forest impact. We have 1,200 miles of interstate right-of-way. We could put solar there with no loss of farm or forest ground. And the idea is that we've failed in getting a lot of wind and solar built in the state because of local control. But the truth is, Ohio and Wisconsin, which the promoters initially were saying was a much better model with a smooth path for development because it was under state authority, Michigan has installed more than twice as much wind energy as those two states combined under local control, and we're on par with solar development with those two states with state level siting. It became so controversial in Ohio that, and in fact I'm speaking there Saturday night, in 2020 the legislatures passed a law that restored to the counties the ability to ban wind and or solar in any or all of their counties with no objection, with a simple majority vote and a resolution from their county board of commissioners. The legislators got very tired of all the people being upset coming to Columbus. This way the complainers stay at the county commission level, and if nothing else the legislators get some peace and quiet.
All right, good idea.
So we have 180 days to collect 550,000 signatures, which gives us a large margin of error because I think the real number is 357. But we want this on the ballot this year, so we have to get this done by May 29th, which is a heavy lift. But we are circulating petitions. Farm Bureau is actively encouraging their membership. We're working with MTA in the same way. We have people working all over the state. One of the mechanisms we put in place is a county captain for each county. So for instance, we have a county captain in Macomb County, but we don't have anybody in Oakland County. So if somebody wants to sign up to become a supporter of us and oversee the petition distribution and so forth in Oakland County, that's one of the things I hope to take out of this meeting tonight. We need somebody in Oakland County. You have high population density. It's a great place to gather signatures. And our website's listed there. There'll be a QR code at the end. You can take a picture of it. The other thing is the money. We know it's a very expensive operation. We have been funded almost exclusively by grassroots donors in the $100 to $1,000 range. Our first campaign finance disclosure will come out next week, and people will see who's out there and behind us. We don't have big industry support, though of course these new stakeholder groups, we're certainly trusting them to partner with us financially. Unlike supporting a candidate, there's no limit on how much a person or a corporation can donate to this effort. So I guess I would say if you'd each put in $100,000 tonight, you would certainly make my life a lot easier. But we desperately need people to get out of their comfort zone and reach out to people in their communities that can help support this effort. Spread the word. If you go to our website, and you see it there again, it's micitizenschoice.org. We have resources and materials, things you can put on social media posts. We have videos there. And if you're going to help us, I have petitions here tonight. We have petitions that you can help circulate. We have instructional videos on how to do that accurately and completely. And that's it. So if you want to grab a picture of that QR code, it may or may not work, but please, anything you can do to help us with this effort would be greatly appreciated.
Kevin, good job. Kevon Martis, Citizens for Local Choice.